Mother Earth, the so-called blue planet of the solar system, due to the presence of a precious resource, the most important liquid in the ecosystem, water. The planet is dominated by vast oceans, different sources of fresh waters, and frozen glaciers that have the power to give birth and harbor different forms of life. Plants, animals, microorganisms, and you. Yes, you. You who rely on water to carry on your day to day lives. You who consume water in order to survive. But are you as important as water? Or are you drowning in your own personal human affairs and interests, forgetting your duties as a resident of this blue precious planet? Water is not as stagnant as it seems, as it has a cycle, which is also called as the hydrologic cycle, which simply begins with the evaporation of water from the oceans or by the transpiration of water from plants, lifting it into the air as water vapor, forming clouds due to condensation, then transported across the seas by the wind until it goes back down as precipitation. As precipitation, water can then go back to the ground as groundwater or back to the sea as runoffs, getting ready to repeat the cycle once again. As you see, just like us humans that have our own day to day life habits, water does too. It has its own cycle. However, if you think about it, the water cycle benefits us more than we are a benefit or of help to it. I can just only say that we humans unknowingly disrupt and harm the water cycle for the sake of our own progress. In this info video, we tackle different causes, effects, and solutions to save and give back to the soul planet and environment that we live in.
The harmful activities we make have disrupted the natural characteristics of our hydrological cycle. All of the basic components of the cycle, such as precipitation, evaporation, and runoff, are affected to some extent by humans. Some of these activities are the following. First is the dams that were constructed to help harness the energy contained in flowing water. Yes, we all know hydroelectric power is a clean and renewable way for us to generate electricity. However, these dams affect our cycle since they trap freshwater runoff in reservoir. If rivers are dammed, it can have an impact on the river's function both upstream and downstream. The volume of water flowing downstream is reduced. Aside from that, evaporation is sped up when more water is exposed to the sun. Increased evaporation alters the air's moisture concentration, resulting in more heavy rain, and this affects the traditional rainfall patterns. Similar things could happen because of the greenhouse effect. Since the temperature is increasing, the amount of water being evaporated is also increasing. Meanwhile, in deforestation, as the number of trees decreases, less amount of water evaporates, meaning there will be less rain, and if the land does not receive enough water from the rain, then we would start relying on irrigation. The problem with irrigation is it takes water away from its natural source, which can lead to leaching and runoff in areas where it is being used. All of these are harmful to our water cycle.
Aquatic invasives are non-native biological organisms that have adapted to water habitats from their previous terrestrial habitats or they may have been introduced from other aquatic habitats. These species pose a threat to the local water cycle because they threaten the native biodiversity and they also alter the water's qualities, which they can do so by increasing the water's turbidity, which is a measure of the clarity of liquids, condensing toxins in the water, and altering the natural nutrient or an energy flow in the aquatic food web. The damage these effects produce in monetary terms amount up to $138 billion per year. The affected areas of aquatic invasives range from the natural vegetation of the land, the agriculture, angling activities, recreational water activities, and individual households. Overall, aquatic invasives are a significant threat to the ecological water systems that have been sustaining life for centuries or even millennia. They will alter and ruin the quality of the local water sources that will cause irreparable damage to our lives and infrastructure and the natural environment itself.
As it produces two of the most important needs, which is water and food, it wouldn't come as a surprise to find out that alterations in the water cycle will affect the epigenetics of a person tremendously. Since epigenetics refer to the modifying of an organism's DNA sequence due to changing behaviors and environments, this does not solely mean that this is how humans would adapt to a world with less fish, less accessibility to safe and consumable water, and less water to sustain farming and more human necessities. It is also noted that water flow has a dependent relationship with weather and climate, hence this could also contribute greatly to epigenetics. However, before it reaches us, it is also essential to consider the epigenetics of those who experience these changes within the water cycle firsthand, which are the aquatic species. Despite the many stressors that aquatic species have gone through, they have adapted through centuries of water cycle changes.
A good way of conserving water is by always being mindful of using water. For example, you might want to turn off your shower or your tap whenever no one is using it. Conserving mineral, distilled, purified, and other kinds of this kind of water is also important because this type of water is safe to consume because it is cleansed, filtered, and only a limited amount of this exists inside the planet. All of these minor things conserving water have a major impact towards our planet's future. The water cycle is the only cycle inside our ecosystem that enables the availability of this water for years. The water cycle is the one recycling the water we use and consume to be able to sustain the earth. Without this cycle, we would have run out of water a long time ago. Water has more than 100 uses for our day-to-day lifestyle, and it has been proven to be one of the most essential needs of mankind up to this day. Learning to value the cycle it is upon and water itself is important because we may hope to see a day where water no longer exists. All life depends on water and how it is cycled throughout our ecosystem, and conservation is key in order for future generations to prosper.